A few comments on this motion. Mr. Speaker, I want us to recognize as a House that this is one such moment when we are being called upon to exercise our mandate as provided for under the Constitution. This is one such process that only took effect upon the promulgation of the very progressive 2010 Constitution. It was never the case before that Parliament could be called upon to approve or even to debate appointments by the President. So we must applaud the 2010 Constitution. And let me, for the avoidance of doubt, just read Article 152.2, which is, of course, couched in similar words as Article 154.2 with respect to the Secretary to the Cabinet, and Article 156.2, or Article 2, in respect to the Attorney General's appointment. Mr. Speaker, it must be clear to all and sundry that in exercising its mandate under this article of the Constitution, the House is being called upon to exercise objectivity and due diligence. The Speaker, Article 152, Subarticle 2, says that the President shall nominate, and with the approval of the National Assembly, appoint cabinet secretaries. It means, therefore, Mr. Speaker, that without a doubt, that the appointment of cabinet secretaries by the President cannot be complete unless and until such approval or such appointment is approved by this House. That is the duty we are being called upon to perform this afternoon and probably tomorrow morning. Mr. Speaker, the standing orders, of course, takes cue from the Constitution and provides for the mechanisms of undertaking this approval exercise. And that is what the Committee on Appointments has just completed. That's the reason why we have got this report before us this afternoon. Mr. Speaker, let me say this for starters. That under the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the standards of ethics and morals that are expected of those who occupy public offices have been elevated so high, that this House cannot simply gloss over them. This House cannot afford to gloss over those standards as established by the Constitution. And let me take you, Mr. Speaker, to the now famed Chapter 6 of our Constitution, and especially Article 73 and Article 75. Mr. Speaker, Article 73, Subarticle 1, among other things, says this: that authority assigned to a state officer is a public trust to be exercised in a manner that, among other things, demonstrates respect for the people and brings honor to the nation and dignity to the office. And if you go ahead, a step ahead, and look at Article 75, Mr. Speaker, it goes on to say that a state officer shall behave whether in public and in official life, in private life, or in association with other persons, in a manner that avoids, among other things, demeaning the office the officer holds. Why am I emphasizing this, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, it is on record that in the previous administrations, if I begin with the administration of the Honorable Mwai Kibaki, the late President of the Republic of Kenya, sometime in the year 2010, the President has suspended 8 officials for 3 months after they were mentioned adversely in reports on the work of the subsidized maize scheme and Kenya's free primary education program. And I will go further to cite another case when in 2015, I think March, President Uhuru Kenyatta came before this very house, and I was privileged to be in this house at that time. He came before this house and read out a list, what was then referred to as the list of shame, of those individuals, public officers and state officers who were under active investigation by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. And subsequent to the reading of that list, these public and state officers were asked to step aside. It is important to point out that this was obviously in accordance with the requirements of the Constitution, and especially the stringent requirements of Chapter 6 of that Constitution. The Speaker, if you go to the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, you will find that once a public officer or state officer has been charged with corruption or economic crimes, he or she shall be suspended with effect from the date of the charge until the conclusion of the case. The Speaker. The Speaker, why am I saying this again? The Speaker, it is important that when you seek to occupy a public office, and indeed a public office as high as that of a cabinet secretary, you must, like Caesar's wife, be beyond reproach. There are no two ways about it. There can be no two ways about it, Mr. Speaker. And that is the basis upon which you will come to appreciate the fact that a minority of the members of the Committee on Appointments did write a minority or dissenting opinion, especially on 2 nominees. That is the Honorable Mithika Linturi and the Honorable Aisha Jumwa. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Appointments did a rigorous job and with utmost objectivity. And indeed, on cases where we agreed, there was no wasting of time. I have a cases in point, the case of the Honorable Professor Kindiki Kiture, the Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, and the Honorable Aden Duale, who for sure left us with no doubt whatsoever that they were capable of exercising the mandates under the dockets to which they had been nominated. And unanimously, we approved their nominations or appointments. The Speaker. The Speaker, on the matter of the Honorable Mithika Linturi, if you go to the report, you will, at page 18, paragraph 17, the commission, that is the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, further stated that it had received adverse reports against the following nominees. 1, Honorable Franklin Mideka Linturi. Allegations that he is in possession of a forged KCSE certificate and a Bachelor of Commerce degree from Marathwada University in India, which he used to register for the Bachelor of Laws degree in the University of Nairobi. It is important to note that during the committee's proceedings, this question was put to the Honorable Linturi. And his answer was that his Bachelor of Laws degree from the University of Nairobi had no issue whatsoever. And yet, according to the EACC, this is a matter which is still under active investigation. He contended that the only issue he had was his master's degree program in law at the University of Nairobi, which had been stopped under suspicious circumstances. The Speaker, the Honorable Linturi went further to inform the committee that he was saddled with a plethora of cases, a litany of cases, numbering about 35, that had weighed him down so much that he wanted to forget about them and move on. Mr. Speaker, how will you move on? How do you move on when you have got active cases against you in court? When we approve you to be a cabinet secretary with all these cases, how would you move on? And yet Kenyans expect you to go and serve them from the office to which you have been appointed. That was our difficulty with the Honorable Mideka Linturi. And indeed, in addition to this other matter of the university accreditation, university certificates, he had the issue of the attempted rape case, which of course had been dropped, and the issue of forgery in terms of acquisition of certain loans, which were ongoing. The Speaker, all this put into context raised serious questions of integrity that, in our view as minority, we felt could not allow the Honorable Linturi to effectively perform the functions of the office of a cabinet secretary if appointed, Mr. Speaker. On the issue of Honorable Aisha Jumwa, it is a matter of public notoriety that the Honorable Aisha Jumwa, up to this afternoon, is still facing an active case of murder. Up to this afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and you will recall for sure, because we live in this country, that some few years ago, none other than the Cabinet Secretary responsible for National Treasury, Mr. Henry Rotich, was charged with certain offenses, I think other corruption or related offenses. And upon being charged, he was made to step aside. Henry Rotich has stayed out of office since then, up to now, until the end of the administration of Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta. So what logic then would you be applying? While on one end, a person as senior as CS in charge of Treasury is being asked to step down, while you are attempting to appoint somebody who is facing active murder charges in court to a public office. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honorable Wandai knows when the Speaker has said he has given Honorable Chepkonga to speak, he needs to sit down. Mr. Speaker, I stand pursuant to Standing Order number 83, as read together with Standing Order number 91, in which it says, Mr. Speaker, a member shall be responsible for the accuracy of any facts which the member alleges to be true and may be required to substantiate any such facts. Is it in order, Mr. Speaker, for the Honorable Wandai, who is the minority leader, to claim that the Honorable Aisha Jumwa does not fit or she is not fit to stand or to be appointed into office when he knows that they appointed the Honorable Aisha Jumwa as a commissioner within the Parliamentary Service Commission, and which she continues to be in that position up to right now as we speak, holding public office as a state officer, Mr. Speaker. I don't need to be informed, Mr. Speaker, I have been a commissioner with Commissioner Aisha Chumwa. The allegation did not arise yesterday, Mr. Speaker. This allegation has been in the public domain as claimed by the Honorable the Minority Leader. It is been there's judicial notice that there's an allegation that she's been accused. And so, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Wandai should be stopped from claiming that she is not fit when she is serving in the Parliamentary Service Commissioner as a commissioner, courtesy of ODM. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Wandai, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I think I would simply ignore. It is not worth spending time on. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, you know I've been here long enough now, Mr. Speaker. Yeah. Honorable Chaponga took some break.
If you have ignored, then don't refer.
Mr. Speaker, what am I saying? What I'm saying is that we must not apply double standards. You cannot, on one hand, demand of a public or state officer to step aside once they are charged in a court of law, while on the other hand, be proceeding to appoint people to state or public offices while they are facing criminal offenses in court. That can only happen in Kenya, Mr. Speaker. And I want to invite this House. I want to invite this House not to give approval to such an adventure. Yeah, we cannot allow this House to take the country backwards, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. Mr. Speaker, at the commencement of the sittings of the Committee on Appointments, I did raise issues, of course, about the constitutional and legal status of the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, on which you ruled. And of course, we have to accept the ruling, Mr. Speaker. The committee has gone ahead to approve, therefore, the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi's appointment, but with a rider. And the rider is contained in page 39, page 40, chapter 8, or part 8. If you go down there, the last sentence on that page, in its deliberations, after the approval hearing of the nominee, the committee observed that it may be necessary to establish a legislative framework to further elaborate on the roles and functions of the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. That is the committee in its wisdom, making a pronouncement of monumental effect, that this office, if left the way it is, could in essence turn the Honorable Mudavadi into an idle cabinet secretary. It could easily turn him into something I want to mention, into an errand boy, sort of. That this House, together with the executive, needs to move with speed and create a legislative framework for this office to function effectively as that of a cabinet secretary. Otherwise, you end up having the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, whom we really respect, sitting idly and trying to look for roles to perform, trying to get some roles from the Deputy President, some roles from the President, some roles from the CS for Interior. That is not going to be good for this country and for the person of the stature of the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. So the committee has duly recommended that in a short while, that legislative framework needs to be established for this office to be anchored properly in law. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, this House is being called upon to rise to the occasion. To rise to the occasion and not to be seen as a mere rubber stamp. This House cannot be a mere rubber stamp. It could not have been the intention of the framers of the Constitution that this House would be a mere rubber stamp to pass through nominations that have been brought to it by the President. There's a reason as to why the framers of the Constitution established, especially Article 152, Sub-Article 2, that the President will not have a free pass, will not have an open check, that this House would act as a safeguard to address issues of suitability, issues of integrity, and all other issues surrounding each and every nominee to the high office of Cabinet Secretary. I will be calling upon this House that when the time comes for taking a vote, that as we approve the other nominees who the committee have approved, when it comes to the two nominees on whom we have drafted a dissenting opinion, that this House would agree with us and reject their nomination. That is the Honorable Mithika Linturi and the Honorable Aisha Jumwa. And on that account, Mr. Speaker, I would be pleading with you that when it comes to voting, apart from voting for these other people as a block, on those two nominees, we vote for them individually and separately. And separately, yes. I am being advised that we need to vote for everybody individually and separately. Mr. Speaker, that is important, so that this House pronounces itself properly. Kenya is a leading democracy in the region of East Africa and entire Central Africa area. We cannot allow to have persons against whom we have got issues, however slight they might be, to be paraded and to be encouraged, to be shepherded to the high offices of cabinet secretaries and the likes. This House must stand firm and be on the right side of history. With those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support with those reservations. Thank you.
Yes. Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, what's your point of order?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise on standing order 97, Mr. Speaker, because looking at the time now, being around 5 p.m., if this debate proceeds up to 7, and the allocation of time is roughly 10 minutes per member, Mr. Speaker, today only 12 members will get an opportunity to contribute. Tomorrow we may be lucky to have an extra 2 hours. That is another 12 members, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I'm seeking your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, that we reduce the time per member to around 5 minutes per member so that we have